Canby. As you see, I'm all by myself up here, but I do have some counselor colleagues on Zoom. We do have a few absent on business trips, etc. For those who are in the room, we will rise for invocation and pledge of allegiance. Father God, thank you for this assemblance of leaders. Please bless us with the wisdom and discernment we need to make good decisions for our community. Bless and protect our first responders, and continue to bless this community with the lovely livability that we've enjoyed for so long and want to continue to have the Canby way. And all of these things I ask in your name, Jesus, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, we have a pretty short agenda tonight, which is good. We're going to start off with citizen input and community announcements. And first on the announcements, we have Riemer.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hensley, and thank you everyone else. This is a great honor for me to announce and invite everyone. This year, on August 6th, is the Canby Vietnam Era Memorial anniversary. We dedicated August 6th, 2011, and 10 years later, we're here celebrating 10 years anniversary. We're having a small celebration. It's an open house. There's no ceremony. It's to ask and invite the citizens of Canby and anyone else who wants to come to just come on to the memorial site and just visit the memorial if you haven't been there in a while. And we have a table and tent that we are planning to sell challenge coins for the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. My husband, Mike Brashears, had designed for the dedication, so those are there. We have T-shirts, the commemoration of the dedication, and brick applications for the bricks in the memorial. And we handed out a yellow page. It's a coloring page that Alex Miller, high school graduate of Canby High of 2008, he made a coloring page for me from a photograph I had of the memorial, and this was in conjunction with Burgerville, who donated the land for the memorial. They always had a coloring station, and so I thought, hey, this would be so cool when people come. The children don't know. They have a coloring page, and their parents or whomever can tell the story about the memorial that Canby and many, many other citizens. One I know of a donation all the way from Australia to help build this memorial, and it's been really wonderful. And we just continue to ask for your support and your encouragement and your donations at the open house this Saturday on the memorial site from 11A to 2P. So we'll be happy to see you guys and tell you thank you again for supporting us for these past 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of the state that day, so save me one of those challenge coins, and I'll catch up with you at the Legion and buy it from you, okay? Very good. Thank you. We have some citizen input cards. If you are here in the audience, which I only see 2 people, but I have 1 card. If you would like to speak, fill out a yellow card and hand it to Melissa. And are our Zoomers in yet? Okay, well, we will go with Joanne Smith, since she's here with a card. Good evening, Joanne.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. Just speak into this, is that what we do here?
Yeah, you have a green light? Yeah, you're good. Just speak into
okay.
the microphone there, and we'll hear
Okay.
you, and it'll also be recorded.
Okay, so thank you, and I am both a tennis player since age 11 and also an intermediate pickleball player. And I've been playing tennis at Charbonneau for 17 years, and I also have a passion for pickleball. And I'm a member of the Charbonneau Tennis Board and a liaison for pickleball. Both sports are lifelong and very healthy fitness options, regardless of age. The concern I have and that I'm representing tonight is that the splash pad at Maple Street Park ended the opportunity for tennis, and the plan was to rebuild the tennis courts. That plan has been changed to pickleball, as it is the up-and-coming thing, and I agree with that. But Charbonneau has both of these sports, and the way that this was accomplished was to have one tennis court taped for 2 pickleball courts. So both courts could be played on one court, both sports. And it's been very successful. And so keep in mind here that tennis cannot be played on a pickleball court. And I don't know, a lot of folks are still not sure what pickleball even is. So my point I want to make tonight is that Canby has been well known for the opportunities for young people, and one of them has been our Canby High School tennis team. Gives me goosebumps, but anyway, I love to see what Canby's done for young people, and I feel like local tennis courts are important to our community, and the courts at the high school are not accessible, and I don't know what we can do about that. But my thought here is if we might consider, if we put 2 tennis courts like originally planned at Maple Street Park and have pickleball also an option by making 1 tennis court, 2 pickleball courts. And if that sport grows, maybe build another pickleball court in the future. But I just would really like to, on behalf of the tennis players in the community, I would like to put it out there that we consider this as an option, if it can be done.
Okay.
And thank you for listening. I appreciate being here.
Staff heard you, and thank you very much for your comments, Joanne.
Thank
Council President Hensley, can I comment on that last?
One moment, I'm looking to see nobody has zoomed in. So that is the end of citizen comment. Yes, Councilor Banks.
Thank you, and thank you, Joanne. I did say at our last city council meeting, actually 2 meetings ago now, because we had that special meeting, that Canby High School does have 8 tennis courts available to the public. And while that was true, that has not been true for the last couple of years. Apparently, due to vandalism, we've been chaining those tennis courts. And so I don't know what we can do to make those available to public use. I do believe in most communities the tennis courts at high schools are available for public use during the non-high school use of it. So, I'm going to keep working on that, Joanne, because you're right. It would be great if our community had multiple facilities for us to play on that. I just want you to know that that is an issue, and I'm going to work on that. It's tough to work on things like that in August, but...
Councilor Banks, would it be fair to say that this would be an issue to bring before the school board?
Probably not yet. Potentially, I think I need to work with the athletic director and facilities use people in the district office. They do have legitimate vandalism concerns, and those courts are tucked away. So I don't know. I'm going to look into that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Banks. Any other citizen input? There's only one other person in the room and nobody on Zoom, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Council President Hensley, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the June 16th, 2021 City Council regular meeting and an approval of an OLCC liquor license application for Didi's Deli located at 1477 Southeast 1st Avenue, Suite 112.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Varweg and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the minutes of the June 16th, 2021 regular City Council meeting and the approval of an OLCC liquor license application for Didi's Deli located at 1477 Southeast 1st Avenue, Suite 112. All those in favor? I'm sorry, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
An aye, so it passes 4-0. Okay, moving on to ordinances. We have the first item on the agenda, actually the only item on the agenda, ordinance number 1559 is an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with R.L. Riemer's company for the Maple Street Park Pickleball Court and Gazebo Improvement Project. This is up for second reading. Scott, do you have any additional information for us?
No, Council President Hensley, no additional information since you passed the first reading. We are recommending second reading. I guess I'll just make a quick comment on the feedback about the tennis, and I do certainly understand and appreciate that interest in the community. My understanding is that so when the idea to put the splash pad there at Maple Street Park was enacted, it did displace the tennis courts, and we're not replacing the tennis courts, we're putting a dedicated pickleball court facility in, which has different dimensions and it fits differently. So as I understand it, as it's been explained to me by staff, their configuration there was that the splash pad, the decision to, I guess, prioritize that use at that site of at that location in the park, essentially made it difficult to replace the tennis courts because of dimensions and size, and the pickleball court that we're looking to approve here tonight has different dimensions and it lays out differently. I do understand the need. Councilor Bangs, I do appreciate your comments about the potential use of those courts at the high school and making those more readily available to the public. I think would be a good solution to provide some of that use. But I will also say the city is aware of there's been more, I think we've received some feedback, staff has received feedback on the desire to see some tennis courts rebuilt somewhere at some point in time. So it's definitely on our radar. We're aware of it. We're also doing our Parks and Recreation Master Plan update process, and so I would encourage anybody in the audience or anybody listening or viewing to feel free to participate and watch for the opportunities. There's a number of public input opportunities. There'll be some online engagement. There'll be some additional meetings. I would encourage people that are interested to make their voice known and weigh in on that as well. But we do know that that's a need that's out there, and depending on what the high school does or doesn't allow with those courts, we'll consider that as part of what we have in our inventory and make sure that we're at least tracking that and seeing what the need is in the community. So just wanted to make that point as well. But with that, I'll be happy to answer any of the questions you might have.
Okay. I'll take a question from we're very informal tonight. Go ahead, Joanne.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
There is no way to make public comment on the Zoom. Somebody just let me, there's people that wanted to make comments. And
They haven't logged into the Zoom. We had a couple that were supposed to.
Public comment.
You have to register using the link on the agenda.
I did have 2 names that were supposed to make comment on Zoom, but they didn't log in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it sounds like the concern is staff is aware of it. We're going to try and address it in a number of ways. Councilor Bangs is looking into school district accessibility. It sounds a little more complicated than just simply double striping things. So it's on the city's radar, and it looks like they're working to accommodate. I do see hands raised. First, Councilor Bangs, then Councilor Varwig.
Thank you. I move to adopt Ordinance 1559, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with R.L. Riemer's company in the amount of $395,450 for construction of Maple Street Park Pickleball Court and Gazebo improvements.
I will second and have comment.
Okay, it has been moved by Councilor Bangs and seconded by Councilor Varwig to adopt ordinance number 1559, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with R.L. Riemer's company for the Maple Street Park Pickleball Court and Gazebo Improvement Project. Councilor Varwig has a comment or question.
Yeah, comment. So I do remember the conversations when we started talking about the splash pad and displacing the tennis court, and I feel a little bit bad for those who were under the impression that that tennis courts would be replaced. I don't remember any timeline that was promised and whatnot, but I definitely feel bad for those who haven't been able to play tennis. And so my comment just is, Scott and staff, if we can really put, I know we're working on the master plan, but can we really put the tennis courts and finding a spot to build new tennis courts as a hot button item to go on that? I'd like to see that as a very high priority so that we can fulfill the promise that we made to replace the tennis courts. I understand that the spacing or whatnot proved not possible to put the tennis courts at Maple Street, but I do remember us telling people, we will put them back eventually, and so I'd really like to make sure that that's a high priority for us as we move forward with parks development.
Thank you, Councilor Barwig. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Council President Hensley. So Scott, are you saying that, I have a question and then a couple of comments. Are you saying that if we could not really in this space, now that, because I know that the size and the shape of the splash pad changed over time, and it sounds like that kind of made replacing the tennis courts not feasible. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's how I have to just say that I wasn't here when those decisions were made, but that's, as it's explained to me by staff, that was the kind of the process and the decision making, and that's what led to at least consideration that the pickleball courts could be built as a dedicated facility, but the tennis courts really don't fit there at this point in the same location or in the nearby location.
Okay. So my thoughts on it are I agree, Joanne, I would really encourage you and the other people that play tennis in the community to engage in the Parks Master Plan. I guess I hesitate to say we should make it a hot button and make it the #1 priority, because I think we need to take into account the whole community. Even though we did say we would, work on putting tennis courts back. I don't think that we said it would happen immediately, and also I think that there's multiple factors in play, and I really empathize because I actually learned to play tennis on those courts when I was a teenager, and they had certainly were not as usable anymore as they were in the 90s when I was playing on them. I think that there's a place in our community for them, but I guess I would stop short of making it the #1 Parks Master Plan priority, because I think that we have a lot of balls in the air and a lot of community needs. I will say that I think we also have to take into account the changing demographics of our community, and it seems like pickleball fits kind of our demographic need now, and hopefully I hope that Councilor Banks and the school board can work together, the school district can work together to make the tennis courts more available, or at least on a limited basis until we figure out a long-term solution for tennis courts. But for me, if tennis courts don't fit in this space, I'm happy that we can provide an outdoor racket activity for the people in our community. I think Joanne said when she was talking that it was, kind of the hot and up and coming sport, and I think that's true, and I think that makes it a good fit, because we're building something for long term. I also know that from talking to people in the tennis community that their hope is to have a covered space, because there's no real place to practice or train in the winter, and I just don't think a covered space fits there. So that would be a really great conversation for the Parks Master Plan. I have no concept of what a covered tennis space would cost or how much space that requires, but I would love to see tennis courts in our community again in the future, and I'm sorry that people are disappointed. I think if they fit there, that probably would have been the direction we went, but if they don't fit there, at least we can provide an outdoor racket activity that's a little bit lower impact for our community. So.
Thank you, Councilor Spoon. Councilor Varwig?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I just want to make sure that it wasn't misunderstood. I didn't say #1 priority. I just said a high priority on that. I'd still like to see the high priority, but definitely not necessarily #1 priority on the Parks Master Plan. That will all kind of flush itself out what's #1, but I just want it to be a high priority.
Yeah, I actually wrote high priority on my notes, so thank you, Councilor Varwig. All right, seeing no more hands raised and no more discussion, this is a second reading, so roll call vote, please.
Councilor Banks?
Aye.
Councilor Spoon?
Hi.
Councilor Varwig?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye. That passes 4-0. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is unfinished business, which is the findings, conclusion, and final order of CPA ZC 21-02. Scott or Joe, you want to take this one and update everyone?
Well, what I will say is 1 week ago tonight, we had a special meeting, and that special meeting was to hear a land use decision, both a Type 3 and a Type 4 decision. This is the findings of the Type 4 decision, which was asking for a zone change and a comp plan amendment, because when you guys decided to deny the comp plan amendment and zone change, the other portions of it became really moot, because the plan that they had for that was predicated on the fact that they were assuming you guys would change or amend the comp plan and do the zone change. So because you did not, we created the findings based on what your findings were. We tried to codify those, and here they are tonight, which are basically what they were asking for did not. It was neither consistent with the development concept plan for the area, nor was it consistent with the comp plan in general. And so we would ask that you approve these findings, and then that way that goes in the books. And the long and the short of all of it was the applicant is now going back to the drawing board under the current zone of R1, and will be appearing in front of the Planning Commission to show them their new plans very soon.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Joe. Councilor Varwig.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I move to accept the I move to adopt the findings, conclusion, and final order denying CPA CC 21-01 application to change the low-density residential comprehensive plan designation and low-density residential zoning district of the parcel to a medium-density residential comprehensive plan amendment and zoning district.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Varwig and seconded by Councilor Spoon to adopt the findings, conclusion, and final order denying CPA ZC 2101 the application to change the low-density residential comprehensive plan designation and low-density residential zoning district of one parcel to medium-density residential comprehensive plan amendment and zoning district. All those in favor?
I have a discussion point.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up there on the screen. Oh, go ahead, Councilor Banks.
Thank you. I have a question really for Joe about process. I was not at the hearing and the meeting last week when we discussed it, so I'm really inclined to abstain. However, would that make it so that we cannot actually proceed because it would deny a majority of the council? Or okay if I abstain on this and it doesn't really gum anything up?
You can abstain without fear, because the vote was actually 5-0, and so if we have 3 of the participating voting members here, if they all agree on these findings, then there will be a majority of that voting body here approving those findings, their findings really, because they just ordered us to go codify them.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Okay, well, with that, any other questions or discussions? We have a first and second on the floor. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And any abstentions?
Thank you.
That passes 3-0-1. Okay, mayor's business is his business because he's out of town. And I have C4 tomorrow in his place, so I really don't have much of a liaison report at this time. I'm going to go in the order that I see on the screen. Councilor Banks.
Thank you. I have no report on the Library Advisory Board because the Library Advisory Board has not met. However, I will ask the council to change the ordinance to allowed the two non-voting student members of these two citizen advisory boards, the Library Advisory Board and the Historic Landmarks Commission, to become voting members. Both of those groups have agreed to do that. Joe has indicated there's no legal impediment for us to do so, and we do not think it's necessary to add yet another person to create an odd number of people on those boards. And so I'd like the city attorney to draw up the language for us to consider that. I'm curious to know if there's any preliminary opposition among the four of us who are here, because otherwise we should probably not even give a thumbs up at this point and wait for more counselors to show up. The only other thing I have is that the report I gave 2 weeks ago about the school district concluded that we would be having 5 days a week of school with no masks, and the Oregon Department of Education, under the governor's orders, have now required us to wear masks, so we'll be masked in school again, at least probably until this Delta variant, which I will admit is keeping me at home today. I managed to pick up COVID in spite of my vaccinations, so it's been a kind of a COVID household lately. None of us have really gone outside for 2 weeks. So yeah, school's going to be back in session with masks until we get over this thing. Informally, is there any opposition to having Joe put together the work for us to have this discussion on student voting members versus non-voting members?
Thank you for your question, Councilor Banks. As you emailed me and Joe Lindsay, and it didn't go out to the entire council that I'm aware of, because we aren't supposed to reply all, just to inform the rest of the council, I did actually deny it to be added to this agenda solely for the reasoning that we didn't have all of our members here, and I think it deserves a more robust conversation on what that would look like. So I've actually asked staff to look at scheduling a work session on it. So it will be talked about, and I hope that suffices your desires at the moment. Councilor Spoon.
I disagree with you. I certainly think it's worthy of a conversation. I don't know if it's worthy of an entire work session. I don't object to language being written up, it appearing on an agenda and us having a conversation about it, but with all of the other much larger issues we have coming up, taking up work session time, I'm not sure that I would say that I'm not willing to have a conversation about this without a robust work session. So I'm totally comfortable with staff writing up the language and us having a conversation at a meeting about it, for sure.
Okay. I just didn't see the urgency in applying a 24-hour notice on it, and we have half the people on the board here. It needs all of us involved.
Yeah, I didn't see a need for it to come on this agenda. Certainly no reason to rush it, but I don't think it necessitates a work session either. I think that at a meeting with better attendance, with more time, I see us having a normal conversation at a meeting.
Okay. Anything else, Councilor Banks?
I agree that it is certainly not an emergency. It does make it easier to recruit one of the members. The one I recruited for the HLC apparently did not fill out the application for that, so my recruitment failed. But no, it is not an emergency. I also do not think it needs to be a work session. I think we're looking at it's not a terribly long conversation before we could decide as a council. Anyway, that's all. I don't have any other report tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Banks. Councilor Spoon, you're next.
Thank you, Council President Hensley. A couple of things. The Quad City Caper Parade is coming up. They're doing bike decorating on August 16th from 3 to 5 at Wake Park. That's a free event. And they will even keep your child's bike overnight in a secure location if you don't want to transport it there, transport it home, and then transport it back the next day. Registration for the actual Kitty Caper Parade is August 17th at 8 a.m. They request that all entries be present by 9 a.m. and then I believe the parade starts at 10. And children and parents who actually participate in the parade, not just watch it, but participate in it, are able to receive a free ticket to the fair as long as supplies last. And that ticket or entry has to be used before 1 p.m. that day. So it's fun to see some of these long-standing community events coming back, and we're excited to attend for sure. The only note I have on Canby Area Transit is that a second member of the Citizen Advisory Committee resigned at the last meeting, so now we have 2 openings. If anyone's interested in participating in CAT, it's actually a really exciting time as we're coming just a couple of months now from opening up the circulator, and we're seeing a lot of progress and change and growth in our transit system. So it's an exciting time to be a part of it and watch it expand after so many years ago with our funding, having to watch it contract. So it's fun to finally see it become more robust, and we're looking for 2 citizens to participate. You do not actually have to be a citizen of Canby, or I believe the makeup requires kind of a balance of business members, community members, etc. So if anyone's interested, please head to the city website where you can fill out an application. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Spoon. Councilor Varwig. Bueller? There you are.
I'm working for my phone tonight. I'm in a hotel up in Seattle, and I'm having to switch back and forth, so it's taking me a minute here. I have nothing for Councilor reports tonight.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Varwig. That brings us to the next point of the agenda, City Administrator's business and staff reports.
Council President Hensley, I do have 3 fairly quick items for you. The first is to remind everybody, council members and anybody listening and viewing, that we did, our new city website went live this week and is now operational. We're very excited to have rolled that out. We gave you a presentation on that recently. I do want to let you, council members, know, please feel free to let staff know if you have any feedback on that. We are, as with anything new or refreshed, it's, we did our best to make it as on the money as possible, but there are always things, always kinks or bugs to work out. So we welcome feedback, and we also welcome that feedback from our users, the community members, the residents, the public, whomever is using that. So we're very excited about that, and I want to thank all the staff, number of city staff that were involved in making that happen. The second thing is our master plan, Parks and Rec master plan process. We had our first public input processes occurred last week. We had a number of stakeholder committee meetings that I think several of you participated in, and a number of our community members and stakeholders, and those went very well. There were I think a good number of those were held, and a lot of good robust input and discussion. And then that culminated with our first public open house last Thursday. And it was in this very room at the council chambers. I sat through that meeting, presentation by staff and our consultants. It was well attended. I don't know what the actual head count ended up being, but the chambers were pretty well filled, and so I imagine somewhere between 40 and 50 people. And I thought that was a pretty good turnout. And there will be, going forward, this was just our first round of public input. There will be a number of other public input opportunities for people to weigh in. So please stay tuned. Follow our new website for information, our city social media pages. We put things out through our local media, so we'll do everything we can to advertise those opportunities. And then the last thing I have is your next regularly scheduled council meeting is August 18th. And we have, as of right now, we have no business items on that meeting. We have no agenda items, essentially. And so I wanted to let you know that and ask whether you might want to consider a motion this evening to not hold that meeting. And we would be happy to do either way. It's possible that some business items could pop up, but there doesn't seem to be anything timely on our end from staff. And so we just want to put that to you, that whether you would want to consider formally canceling that meeting.
Thank you, Scott.
And a reminder, you did, excuse me, I'm sorry for the interruption. You did have an extra meeting, I guess you
We had
ended
a
up having
makeup
a normal.
session.
You had a makeup special session. You did have one meeting cancel in July because of lack of quorum, but I guess, so it ended up being about the same, it was the same number of normal meetings, but you had scheduled an extra meeting in July, so.
Which, true, and actually, historically, we have been known to cancel, usually it's a July meeting, but we usually do end up skipping a summer meeting because of lack of business items. And also, August 18th is a Wednesday at the fair, which is historically the Real Men Wear Pink night, so, if we could rather go to the rodeo. I will take a motion or a discussion. I see Councilor Bang's hand up first, and then Councilor Varwig.
Thank you. I move that we cancel the August 18th, 2021 meeting.
I second it because I have a hand up to make the motion, so I'll just second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Banks and seconded by Councilor Varwig that we cancel the August 18th, 2021 meeting. All those in favor? Passes 4-0. We'll see you all in September. And anything else, Scott?
That was it for my report.
Anything from Joe or Melissa? Okay.
Just enjoy the fair.
Right, go enjoy the fair, absolutely. We can do that this year. Anything from Ms. Driscoll or Chapin on Zoom yet for second opportunity at citizen input? Okay, well then action review.
You've approved the consent agenda, adopted ordinance number 1559, adopted the final findings, conclusion, final order for CPA ZC 21-01, and then cancel the August 18th City Council meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, Canby, I hope you all go and enjoy the fair and rodeo this year, and I will take a motion to adjourn. I see Councilor Varwig.
I move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Varwig, seconded by Councilor Banks. It's a non-debatable motion, so we are adjourned.